Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing 3.4. We had to do a little bit of a rework on the end of chapter 3. So if you watch the other video, it's going to be a lot of the same in this one, but there are going to be some things extra. So definitely go ahead and do a rewatch on it. I'll try to keep it short. Shouldn't take too long. So the biggest thing we want to look at with factoring is the reason we want to do factoring is because once we have something in factored form, we know where the x-intercepts or the solutions are to a problem. This helps us if the problem works out nicely for us. We'll look next time as to what we do if it doesn't work out nicely. But for now, we're going to assume that it works out nicely for us in this section. So the first thing you always want to do is greatest common factor. Every single time you work one of these problems, always do greatest common factor first. So looking at that, remember greatest common factor is just what you can divide every part by. So in this case, 3. 3 goes out front because that's what we divided by, and then x minus 2. For the next one, I can divide each of these by 2x. Now I want to be careful here, because most students are fine looking at the first one and go, okay, 4 divided by 2 is 2, x squared divided by x, I still have 1, okay? But it's the second part that students forget about. A lot of times I see students go, okay, and I'm done. And the reason they're doing this is because they're saying, okay, well, 2x over 2x, that cancels. But remember, it cancels to 1, not 0. 2x minus 2x cancels to 0. Because it doesn't cancel completely, because that 1 is still there, and I'm adding, if I add 1 to something, that changes it. If I add 0, it doesn't, but that's not what's happening here. I'm getting this first one. So I do want to include that 1 still. For the last one, I can do everything by 2x again. So 2x, 4, x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay. Now, on this last one, I have a nice quadratic here. So I need to be careful, because if my question says, hey, factor completely, I do want to double check this and make sure that I can't factor it anymore. Okay. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Okay, so first off, let's start with some basic trinomials. And what I mean by basic is that with that ax squared plus bx plus c, a is 1. So on all of these, I have that invisible 1. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and do this a little bit the longer way, because I find students who try to do this 2 separate ways struggle on this. So I'm going to show you one way that will always work for you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a here. Now, a is 1, which makes this next part easy, but it is important to go ahead and put 1 there. Okay, so I'm going to look at just a for right now. My first step is I want to put it in my diamond. Okay, now on my diamond, I'm going to have a times c in the top and b in the bottom. Now notice here I did a times c, not ax. So I'm only taking a. I am not taking the x's. I'm not taking any variables with me. Okay, so a is 1, c is 8. 1 times 8 is 8. B is 6. My next step, I want to find my factors of a times c. So I want to make a factor tree. 8. So I've got 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. At this step, I want to look at my factors and figure out which one adds up to give me b. So match for b. In this case, 2 and 4. So I'm going to put 2 over here, 4 over here. Next, I want to head over to the box. Now my box, I'm going to put the box over here on the left. Okay, my box, what it should look like is it should always be a x squared. In this case, I am using that x squared. C, and then it's going to be something x, something x. Those somethings come from the two numbers that we found. Okay, at this point, I do not need the 8 anymore. I do not need the 6 anymore. I need the 2 and the 4. So taking it over to the box. Now for this, I'm working from the inside out. Last unit when we were multiplying, we took the outside, multiplied those to get the inside. Remember, factoring is like backwards multiplication. It's kind of like division, but not exactly. So I'm taking the inside to get the outside. To do that again, I'm going to do ax squared. My a here was 1, so really just x squared. Okay, if you want to put the 1 there, that's fine. It's not going to change anything. C is 8. It's very important that we use only C, not a times C. In this case, it's the same thing, but it's going to be important later. And then one of these numbers needs to go here with an x, and then the other number needs to go in the top right with an x, okay? Technically doesn't matter, just be consistent. My next step is I'm going to undo the box. Okay, now to do that, it kind of there's a neat little trick, and I promise if you do this stupid circle, you're less likely to make a mistake. I know people feel silly drawing this circle. Please draw it. I know it feels silly. I know it feels stupid. Please do it. It's going to make your life easier. Because what it does is it focuses you there. So I'm looking at those. What can I take out of both of those? So very similar to a GCF. What is my GCF of those two terms? In this case, it's going to be x. My next step is to figure out what times that x gives me the 1x squared, in this case, x, or 1x. What times the x gives me 2x, 2. And then what times this x over on the left that gives me 4x, which is going to be 4. And here's my answers. Here's my two factors. X plus 2, x plus 4. Okay, and if I took those and FOILed it out, that's what I would get. Now, a good double check is to look at the 8 and go, okay, well, 2 times 4 does give me 8. Okay, I'm going to do one more of these ones, and then we're going to move on to the other ones. These ones are fairly simple because A is 1. Okay, so feel free to skip ahead to factor by grouping if you're good on this. Okay, so following the same pattern, I'm going to go ahead. Let's do a negative one this time. So I'm going to do D. Okay, so top A times C. And again, we have the invisible 1. Negative 18. And then negative 3. Now this negative is important. I do want to bring negatives or minuses with me. Negative 18, negative 1, 18, negative 2, 9, negative 3, 6. Well, that would give me positive 3. That's close. Okay, so let's keep going. 4, don't have one. 5, don't have one. Negative 6, 3. So when you have those negatives, you sometimes have to use the other side. Okay, same with the positives, but it's a little rarer. And I think there's one coming up shortly. I can show you real quick what that would look like. So I'm going to use these two. So negative 6 and 3. Okay, and again, I want to use those ones instead of the negative 3, 6, because the negative 3, 6 would give me a positive 3, but I want a negative 3. Taking it over to the box. 1x squared, negative 18, negative 6x, 3x, drawing the circle. I can take an x out of both of those. X times x gives me x squared. Negative 6 times x gives me negative 6x. 3 times x gives me 3x. And then negative 6 times 3 does in fact give me negative 18. So my factors here are x minus 6, x plus 3. Okay, factor by grouping is, we used to do this a very different way. Okay, we used to do what we call guess and check and factor by grouping. Okay, what we found though is that students actually do better with the box. So what I'm going to show you is a way you can do this. I'm going to show you actually 2 ways here. Okay, and they really do the same thing if you really look at it. But I'm going to show you the box first. And if you're cool with the box, and you're not in honors, I would maybe skip the next part. But if you are in honors, make sure you watch both parts here because it will be useful for you once you get into 1050 or calculus. Okay, so for the box, the reason we have to do the diamond is because the box has 4 parts. And when I have 4 parts, it's not as, and I only have 3 in my original. I need a 4th one. I need something else to stick in that last box. So what the diamond does is it splits it so we get 2. But here, I already have 4 terms. So I can just throw this straight into the box. And I like to just go first, second, third, fourth on this. Okay, and then same steps. So basically we just skip over the diamond. What can I take out of both of these? Well, I can take a 3 and an x. For here, I would need an x squared. So it's kind of going back to like we were doing with dividing. Well, how do I get from 3x to 3x cubed? Here would be -2. And then up here would just be 1. Okay, and then 1 times -2 does in fact give me -2. So then my factors here are 3x plus 1, x squared minus 2. Okay, again, the last thing I want to look at here, though, is, and again, feel free to skip this over if you're a regular. For the honor sheets, make sure you are watching this, is factor by grouping. So what you do for factor by grouping is you go bloop, 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 and then you factor out whatever you can from each of those groups. So in this one, I can factor out an x squared. In this one, I can factor out a -2. Okay, kind of see what we're doing here. So I have x squared, and really there's a plus between those, sorry. X squared, and then 3x plus 1. Oh, wow, that looks nice. Plus -2, 3x plus 1. Wow, these things are the same. So I can kind of factor that out of the factor, put it out front, and then whatever's left, in this case, x squared minus 2, there's my factor by grouping. Okay, last part we need to look at today is trinomials where a is not 1. So this is very, very, very similar to what we did on the first set. However, couple important things. 1, always check for your GCF, especially if your numbers are bigger. Like on this second one, the B there, we're at 10 and 12. Those are bigger numbers. So please make sure that you are checking for a GCF, especially if there's bigger numbers. Because if you're factoring completely, you want to make sure you're doing that first. I'm actually going to start with C here because I want to show you one that has where it's positive and negative. It's kind of funky. Okay, so again, same idea. GCF first. Don't have a GCF here. I can't divide all parts by something. Best I could do is 1, but that's not going to do anything. So A times C is going to be 6. B is -7. So my factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. But none of those add up to give me -7. Well, remember, a negative times a negative is a positive. So I can also say -2, -3, -1, -6. And those are still technically factors of +6 because that negative times negative gives me that positive. And now I have the 2 I need. Okay, so I've got -1, -6, go into my box. Now this is where students make their mistakes because they're so used to doing a equals 1. A is not equal to 1 anymore, it's 3. So I need 3y squared. 2. And again, it's 2. It's not this 6. It's the 2 from the original problem. That's my C here. -1. Y in this case doesn't really change anything. Just use the correct variable. -6y. Circle. Take a y out of both of these. Now, this is not just going to be y over here because I need a 3y to get to 3y squared. Down here is going to be -1. Be careful on this one because I need to figure out what times 3y gives me -6, which is going to be -2. -1 times -2 gives me +2. I'm good. Y minus 2. 3y minus 1. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Feel free to pause at this point. If you feel like you're good and you're remembering it, feel free to stop the video at this point. I'm going to do one more. Let's go ahead and do B. It's kind of the big number, so let's go ahead and do that one. And again, I don't have a GCF here, which is kind of frustrating because those are some big numbers. So 10 times 12 is going to be 120. And then I want to get to 23. Now, if I think about this logically for a second, if I start at 1 and 120, it's probably not going to do me much good. It would actually be better to start this one at 5, 6, 7, okay, versus a little bit larger number, because then it's going to get me to the numbers I need faster. So 2, 60. I'm going to go ahead and go through them all, though. 3, 40. See, again, even at 3, I'm not nearly close enough to 23. 4 and 30, getting closer. 5 and 24, closer. 6 and 20, 7 doesn't work. 8 and 15. Okay, and I could keep going. I could go ahead and try 9 and 10. 10 definitely works. But I can stop here. I got the ones I need. 15. Going to my box. 10v squared, again, using that A. 12 for my C. 8v, 15v. Be careful here. I can not only take out a V, but I can also take out a 2. And then here, it's going to be 5v. 2v times something gives me 8v. It's going to be 4. 5v times something gives me 15v. It's going to be 3. 3 times 4 is 12. So then my factors for this one are 2v plus 3. 5v plus 4. Okay, and there we are. Again, please make sure you are stopping in for RTI time, tutoring. If you're not getting that extra help, I've been having to tell some students lately, if you're not getting that extra help and you're not getting your work done, I am not going to let you take retakes. Okay, you have to be doing the extra work if you're wanting a retake. Honestly, though, if you're doing the work and you're doing what I ask, you probably won't need the retake to begin with. So please be trying to keep up with your assignments, whether you're virtual, quarantine, or in person. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys next time.